It's an Audi A3, but not perhaps quite as you know it. Here we've the Saloon version, designed to bring the brand's cool elegance within the reach of those who might find the only slightly larger A4 model a bit of a stretch. We all like the idea of good things in sensibly sized packages. In essence, that's what this is.
The compact executive saloon. Now, every business car park is stuffed with these things. Most of them upmarket German badged offerings like Audi's A4, BMW's 3 Series or Mercedes C-Class. Cars of this kind are now generations old, and they've got progressively larger, more sophisticated and more expensive. So much so that room's been created for a market sector to slot in underneath them. A segment with four-door saloons offering pretty much the same thing, but in a slightly more compact form. Cars like this one, Audi's A3 Saloon. The Ingolstadt brand first launched this model in our market in 2013, and from the start they were well aware that they needed to sell this one carefully. After all, it's traditionally been true that any four-door smaller than something A4, 3 Series or C-Class size tends to get pretty much ignored on these shores. So the marketeers couldn't afford for this 3-box A3 variant to be seen as a direct rival for minority sedan players like Volkswagen's Jetta or Volvo's S60. Instead, they had to pitch it as offering almost everything a buyer might get in their fully fledged A4 model, but in a marginally smaller package with the option of some more efficient and affordable entry-level engines. The thinking person's compact executive saloon, if you like. By 2013, Mercedes had already dipped a toe into this kind of segment with their A-Class based CLA model. But thanks to its style and technology emphasis, that car was pitched at A4, 3 Series or C-Class money, which rather defeated the object of the exercise. This A3 Saloon, in contrast, although it's not vastly cheaper than its A4 stablemate, has always offered enough of a price saving to enable it to provide a cost-efficient alternative to that car for business buyers who are on the lower rungs of the management ladder. Now that has proved to be an attractive proposition in our market, with 17,000 examples of the original version of this car sold. In truth, though, this derivative doesn't really have to pay its way here, given that its main popularity has always been in Audi's huge US and Chinese markets, countries where it's the A3 body style of choice. To further cement this variant's premium credentials, it got a whole package of improvements in the summer of 2016. It's an update that deserves your attention, given that the usual minor styling enhancements are accompanied by some genuine substance in terms of the changes made. There's a sophisticated new 2-litre petrol engine, there's real advances in media connectivity, and there's even the option of the fully digital Audi virtual cockpit instrument binnacle from the brand's TT sports car. Will this all be enough, though, for potential buyers in this segment to take a fresh look at what's on offer here? Let's go and find out. You won't be expecting this A3 Saloon to drive any differently to its hatchback model counterparts, and it doesn't. But if you haven't tried one of those, then it might be worth covering the experience that's on offer, which is very polished indeed. The MQB, or modular transverse matrix underpinnings, have been developed on €1 billion budget to deliver class-leading standards of ride, handling and a whole lot more. First up, because a lot of the stuff that you can't see is lighter than it would be on competitor models, this car immediately feels more lithe and agile than you might expect it to be, even on a short drive. True, a real driving enthusiast might prefer the slightly sharper reactions of a rival Mercedes CLA, but everyone else will probably enjoy this Audi just as much, thanks to lovely technical touches, like the way that an electronic limited slip differential is built into the stability control system, so that the car turns more sharply into bends, and the beautifully calibrated multi-link suspension that enables the car to flow fluently through those corners while nonchalantly soaking up the bumps in a way that perfectly complements this A3's quite exemplary standards of refinement. Suspension, in fact, is one thing it's important to get right when specifying this car. The standard dynamic setup we think is just fine, but if you're likely to want to throw this car around a bit, then there is the option of sport suspension that's been lowered by 15mm, or on S-Line models an S-Line sport suspension that lowers it by 25mm. We would steer clear of those options though. After all, there are other ways to make this car feel more responsive that don't involve higher chiropractor bills. If you're prepared to make a more expensive tick on the options list, then you could try Audi's advanced magnetic ride system with its clever magneto-rheological fluid-filled dampers that you change the ride quality to suit the road you're on and the mood you're in. Now this setup works via the comfort, auto, dynamic, efficiency or individual modes of the standard drive select system, which in its basic form lets you vary the throttle response, the steering weighting, and where the S-Tronic dual clutch sequential transmission is fitted, the gearbox shift points to create exactly the kind of feel you're looking for. This smooth shifting auto box is an option across the range, a dual clutch system that's able to select the next gear before you've even left the last one. You get the 6-speed version of S-Tronic we're trying here on 2-litre diesel models, and the higher tech, more efficient 7-speed version on all the other variants. Otherwise, most mainstream A3 Saloon variants come fitted with a reasonably slick shifting manual 6-speeder. We should talk about engines. Here we're trying the 2-litre TDI 150 PS diesel variant that around 35% of buyers will choose. Performance with this popular black pump fuel variant is smoothly rapid. The 62 miles an hour sprint occupies 8.6 seconds on the way to 139 mph, or 8.3 seconds and 136 mph if you take up the option your Audi Centre will offer you of adding in Quattro 4-wheel drive. You have to have both the Quattro system and the S-Tronic Auto gearbox if you choose the pokier 184 PS version of this engine. In that form, your A3 Saloon will be really rather rapid, making 62 miles an hour in 6.9 seconds en route to 147 mph. If you like the thought of a diesel, but you need an emphasis on parsimony rather than on power, then the lower powered 110 PS 1.6-litre TDI model will be a better fit. That variant capable of the 62 mph sprint in 10.7 seconds on the way to 126 miles an hour. But don't automatically choose that car without first considering its comparably priced and very clever petrol alternative, the 150 PS 1.4-litre TFSI COD petrol version. Here, advanced cylinder-on-demand technology is capable of seamlessly shutting down 2 of the 4 cylinders at low to medium engine speeds. The result is a combined cycle fuel figure of around 60 miles per gallon, which belies a spirited performance. Rests to 62 mph in 8.2 seconds on the way to 139 miles an hour. Now that is a combination of virtues that it's very difficult to argue with. We should also tell you about this improved model's freshly developed 2-litre TFSI engine, a unit that in 190 PS guise replaces the old 1.8-litre power plant, and in uprated 310 PS form is also carried over for use in the potent S3 hot hatch variant. In all its forms, this power plant is only available in this body style with the 7-speed S-Tronic Auto gearbox, and essentially what the engineers have done with this unit is to further maximise compression efficiency, add in a bit of power and take full advantage of the lower first gear ratio that the installation of that 7-speed S-Tronic box allowed them to fit. Now, don't worry if you glazed over while I detailed all those changes. What you'll be more interested to know about is the performance benefit, which essentially boils down to this. Now, previously, you had to buy quite a serious sports saloon to get 155 miles an hour and sub 7-second rest to 62 miles an hour performance from this class of car. Now, a sober-suited 4-door A3 2-litre TFSI can provide just that at a much lower cost to your bank balance, your image, and your insurance premium. As usual with a powerful Audi, this 2-litre engine can be mated with Quattro 4-wheel drive. The extra traction optional if you go for a 190 PS model, or as usual standard if you prefer the S3 Sports Saloon. We should mention that there are changes to the Quattro setup too. Software updates now allowing up to 100% of drives to be directed either frontwards or rearwards, depending on the grip available, with priority now given to rearward torque transfer during hard driving, so as to give the more enthusiast-orientated level of cornering feel that will be particularly sought by S3 customers. Those people will find that this potent variant delivers 10 PS more than it did previously, although the impact that makes on the performance figures is inevitably fractional. 62 miles an hour from rest takes 5.3 seconds in a manual derivative, or 4.6 seconds if you choose a version in which the S-Tronic auto gearbox does all the cog swapping. If you want to go even faster, then there's a frantically quick flagship RS3 model that uses a 5-cylinder 2.5 litre unit, putting out 400 PS. Now, such firepower allows this desirable but pricey variant to sprint from rest to 62 miles an hour in just 4.1 seconds. It can attain a maximum speed of 155 miles an hour, and on request, Audi will increase the electronically restricted top speed to 174 miles an hour. Very nice, if you can justify it. If this variant takes your interest in the A3 model lineup, you'll probably approach it with a couple of ready-made preconceptions. Either that it'll be some kind of lightly shrunken version of the larger A4, or merely an A3 hatch with a boot added on the back. In reality, neither of these expectations hit the mark. It's very much an A3, but a subtly different one. 11 mils wider, 9 millimeters lower, and 146 mils longer than the kind of comparable 5-door A3 Sportback that many likely buyers will probably also be considering. Audi originally decided to make this 3-box model for two reasons. Firstly, because it's what customers want in its markets in China and the US. And secondly, because it needed a slightly larger platform on which to base the second-generation A3 Cabriolet. From a style perspective, this design doesn't sound up to make the kind of sweeping aesthetic statement you'd get in a pricier rival Mercedes CLA, but it's still a neat piece of penmanship. Sophisticated styling doesn't really date very much, and the look of this third-generation A3 model line really hasn't. So, as before, you get a conservative but classy feel, with jewel-like finishing and razor-sharp shut lines. And also, as before, the whole thing is built on a stiff but impressively light MQB platform that plays a major part in allowing this A3 to weigh in at a level that can make it up to 215 kilos lighter than that close Mercedes rival. Audi's kept ahead in this regard by continuing to pare away weight wherever it could. The front wings and the bonnet, for example, aren't made from steel but from aluminium. Now, the changes made to this revised model are primarily focused on the front end, where the familiar single-frame grille is now wider, more sharply contoured. The headlamps that flank it are flatter and more distinctive than before, with more modern xenon lighting replacing the old halogen units. Incorporated LED daytime running lights are standard, and as an option you can extend the LED technology into the headlamp beams, or go further still and opt for Audi's clever matrix LED headlamp system. This is able to continually react to other road users and ambient conditions. This S-Line variant gets a restyled bumper too. From the side, the changes made are more subtle, primarily limited to restyled alloy wheels that are either 17, 18 or, as in this case, even 19 inches in size. As before, you get an emphasised version of Audi's trademark Tornado swage line that combines with the short overhangs to create a distinctive profile that culminates in the neat way that the C-pillar flows down to meet the gently rising boot line. It'll all blend smartly into the background in the office car park, exactly as buyers will want it to. At the rear, clear-cut lines surround the smarter horizontal 3D lighting graphics of these revised tail lamp clusters. On this S-Line variant, these feature jewel-like LED illumination and include dynamic indicators that put on a sweeping light show every time you flick them on. As before, there's a neat boot spoiler, and above the rear window there's a shark fin antenna that can be set to boost the signal of your smartphone via the Audi phone box option. Lower down, a redesigned diffuser, platinum grey, finished on this S-Line model, is supposed to make this revised model look wider, and offset to the left of it either one or two chrome tip exhaust tailpipes, depending on the engine you've chosen. Time to take a seat inside, and as before, the cabin quality you'll find here continues to set this car apart at its price point, with a really premium feeling of quality and class, emphasised here by these optional grey-stitched Napa leather front sports seats and these matte brushed aluminium fascia inlays. The defining feature of the dash remains these 4 air vents, styled to look like miniature jet engines, and made up of no fewer than 30 individual parts, including bright metal outer rings that are shaped for perfect grip. The 2 central vents sit above a smarter panel and ventilation controls. It now has a piano black finish, plus there's a restyled 3-spoke leather trim steering wheel. It's what you can view through this, though, that probably represents the greatest change in this environment, referring to a feature that has been fitted here, the optional Audi virtual cockpit. It's a pity you have to pay extra for it, but if you can, you get yourself a real cabin talking point. The setup replacing the entire instrument binnacle with a 12.3-inch colour TFT screen that's fully digital and customisable, with smart 3D graphics and highly detailed effects. Now, it can be viewed in 2 ways. The classic display shows you a prominent speedometer, rev counter and gear indicator, but alternatively, the progressive display reduces the size of those items and brings functions like the navigation map or your media settings to the fore. Now, we are going to see many more systems of this kind in future years, but this one really sets the standard they must all try to reach when it comes to clarity and ease of use. Anything this setup can't tell you will almost certainly be covered by the slimline MMI infotainment display that glides out from the top of the dashboard to deal with audio, informational and phone-orientated functions that you can prompt via this chrome-edged rotary controller in front of the gear stick. The retracting screen is now 7 inches inside across the range, and it now works as standard with the useful Audi smartphone interface that, through Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone connectivity, allows everything that you access on your handset to be duplicated onto the slide-out monitor. From here, you'll also be able to access a whole raft of 4G online Wi-Fi options via the clever Audi Connect system that's fitted, on a trial basis at least, to all A3 Saloons. The setup is powered by a super fast LTE module that will give you download speeds of up to 100 megabytes per second and can allow you to navigate via Google Earth, Google Street View and Google Maps. Plus, it can link you into Twitter, access Google Online and give you weather, news and travel information as you drive. Once you've tried it, you really won't want to be without it. At extra cost, you can further upgrade yourself to the premium MMI Navigation Plus with MMI Touch system we're trying here, with its crisp 3D maps, dynamic route guidance, 10GB jukebox hard drive and DVD player. Plus, with this more advanced setup, the rotary controller comes with a touch-sensitive surface on which you can trace commands with your fingertips. Talking of touch, well, almost everything on which your fingers fall in this cabin feels good. The buttons click nicely, the column stalks feel of high quality, got these lovely backlit cup holders in front of the gear stick, and the low-rent plastics you'd find further down in some premium rivals are mostly noticeable by their absence. Only storage space could be better. The glove box is small, particularly when, as here, it's filled with media stuff, and it's not lockable as standard either, while the door bins are also quite compact. We'll make the same comment about the console box between the front seats, although it is a useful place to put your phone thanks to the provision of an aux-in point and 2 USB sockets. If you've gone for the Audi phone box option, there's even a pad in here that charges your handset and boosts its reception. So, let's take a seat in the back. For rear seat passengers, there's just no comparison between this car and its Mercedes CLA rival. Coupe-like styling means the place in the rear of the Merc is cramped and claustrophobic, but in this Audi, it's very different, especially if you happen to specify the optional glass panoramic roof. Certainly the 2 adults that will most regularly be carried here should be as comfortable as they would be in a comparable A4 Saloon on all but the very longest trips. They'll also have slightly more legroom than they would in the A3 Sportback hatch, thanks to this body style's extra 144mm of wheelbase. It's true, though, that the headroom isn't quite as generous as you'll find in that Sportback model. 3 folk can be accommodated as squash, but if they're adults, they'll be impeded by the relatively high centre transmission tunnel. Finally, let's check out luggage space. Now, once you've lumped your stuff over the relatively high sill, you'll find 425 litres on offer here. Another area where the wheelbase increase over an A3 Sportback pays dividends. There's 45 litres more here than you get in that hatch model, which is usefully more than you get in something like a Volvo S60, but about 10% less than the trunk provided in rival Mercedes CLA. Despite that, we'd still contend this Audi to be a slightly more practical choice than the Merc, because when you push forward the 60/40 split folding rear bench, freeing up as much as 845 litres, the opening created is much wider and more usable. Expect to pay from just under £25,000 to around £30,000 for mainstream versions of this A3 Saloon. Now, if you're making direct price comparisons with hatchback A3 models, bear in mind that you can only order mainstream versions of this four-door body style in plusher Sport and S-Line trim, so you'll need to compare like with like. If you do that, then you'll find that an A3 Saloon will typically need a premium of around £550 over the cost of a directly comparable five-door A3 Sportback, and a premium of around £1,200 over the cost of a directly comparable three-door A3 hatch. Now, at the foot of the range, buyers are offered an interesting choice of conventional 1.6 litre TDI diesel power or clever and pokier 1.4 litre cylinder-on-demand TFSI petrol technology, with both engines available for the same kind of £24,500 budget. You probably have firm views either way on your choice of fuel, but whichever way you go, there's a premium of about £1,500 to progress up to the next power level. For diesel people, that'll be the 2 litre TDI 150 PS unit we've been trying here. Petrol folk, meanwhile, have the option of a freshly introduced 2 litre TFSI 190 PS variant that's only offered with S-tronic automatic transmission. The S-tronic Auto Box is an option costing around £1,500 on most engines in the mainstream range, and you have to have it on the most powerful petrol and diesel variants. Now, you get the 6-speed version of S-tronic we've been trying here in the 2 litre diesel models, and the higher tech, more efficient 7-speed version with all the other variants. Now, another option that you'll need to budget around £1,500 more for is the improved Quattro 4-wheel drive system. Now, that's optional on the 2 litre TFSI petrol variant and this 2 litre TDI 150 PS diesel derivative. You get both Quattro and S-tronic as standard on the top 2 litre TDI 184 PS diesel model. Quattro traction, as you might expect, is a standard feature on the most desirable sporting versions of this car. The S3 Saloon that we haven't mentioned yet is powered by a 310 PS version of that improved 2 litre petrol turbo engine, and that's a variant requiring a £35,000 budget, with around £1,500 more if you want the S-tronic Auto Box. If you can stretch your budget up to around £40,000 though, there's a potent 400 PS RS3 variant on offer, powered by a 2.5 litre TFSI 5-cylinder power plant, and that only comes mated to S-tronic transmission. So, how does this kind of pricing match up against Audi's directly comparable rivals? In fact, is there a directly comparable rival to this car? A small, compact executive saloon that's a size below models in the Audi A4, BMW 3 Series, Mercedes C-Class segment, and is a little more affordable, yet it still bears a prestigious badge. Well, that depends how you look at it and what your definition of a prestigious badge is. After all, you could save at least around £2,000 over the cost of this car and get yourself a comparable Volvo S60 Saloon, or more than double that and get yourself a four-door Volkswagen Jetta. We're guessing, though, that if you're really a typical potential Audi buyer, you'll be looking for something a little nicer than that. A four-door Mercedes CLA Coupe, perhaps. Well, maybe. The size is right, but you'd have to say that the Merc is a more stylised, less practical choice. Price comparisons between the two cars are a little difficult to make because the engine outputs offered are different, but if you're looking at a CLA, then you could easily find yourself paying £2,000 or £3,000 more for it than you have to find for the most directly comparable A3 Saloon, and that takes you into the kind of money that you'd have to pay for Audi A4 or BMW 3 Series saloons from the next segment up. In other words, some will see this Audi as a rather unique proposition, saving them up to around £4,000 over a comparably specified version of the only slightly larger four-door Audi A4. In an A3 Saloon, you've also got access to the smaller 1.6-litre TDI engine, which means that TDI diesel motoring starts around £25,000, as opposed to getting on for £30,000 in the least expensive TDI A4. So if, having looked at the proposition provided and all the alternatives, you're convinced by what's on offer here, well, then you'll want to know just what's included as part of the standard equipment tally. And the answer is quite a reasonable amount. Now, as mentioned earlier, the entry-level trim for A3 Saloon buyers is Sport Spec, which means you get niceties like 17-inch alloy wheels, dual-zone climate control, and the Audi Drive Select Vehicle Dynamic System, which allows you to tweak the steering, the throttle, and the auto gear shift characteristics to suit the way you want to drive. This is all in addition to standard features now fitted across the A3 range. Things like xenon headlamps with LED daytime running lights, as well as auto headlamps and wipers, an alarm and a smartphone interface that allows connection into the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto systems, and access to handset functions via the car's centre dash infotainment display. Now, that slimline MMI colour screen remains a significant A3 showroom selling point. Electrically retractable, operable by voice, and the point from which you can make your phone Bluetooth compatible and fiddle with an 8-speaker DAB audio system that's also accessible via controls on the restyled 3-spoke leather-trimmed multifunction steering wheel. The infotainment setup also comes with an MMI navigation system that allows you to trial Audi's wide range of Connect infotainment media connectivity features. Now, another benefit of having MMI navigation fitted is that you'll also be able to download and use a free Audi MMI Connect app on your smartphone. This allows you to do things like locate the car if you've forgotten where you parked it, plus you can plan a route on the app, upload it into your A3, and then use the app to update yourself on traffic conditions all the way through your journey. Many A3 Saloon buyers will want to stretch a little further up the range and get themselves an S-Line derivative like the one we're trying here. Now, with this trim level, you get sportier body styling, even bigger 18-inch wheels, LED headlamps, and the no-cost option of lowered sport suspension. Other extra S-Line features include part leather-trimmed sports seats, a flat-bottomed sports steering wheel, stainless steel pedals, an LED interior lighting package, and a storage pack that gives you nets in the front seat backs and another in the front passenger footwell. Plus, there's also a rear 12-volt socket. Time to move on to options. Now, upgraded infotainment is a key part of the appeal of this revised A3, and you can get an awful lot of it by paying extra for the optional technology pack. Now here, the most important inclusion is Audi's sophisticated MMI Navigation Plus with MMI Touch system, with its crisp 3D map display, 10GB music hard drive, DVD player, and responsive NVIDIA graphics. Further technology pack inclusions run to a touch-sensitive surface for the MMI rotary controller, so you can trace commands with your fingertips, the Audi phone box system that wirelessly charges your smartphone and also improves its reception quality via the roof antenna. And you also get a 3-year subscription to the thing that really completes the MMI setup's functionality, namely the Audi Connect connectivity system. Audi Connect is something we really need to tell you a bit more about. Now, even if you don't specify that technology pack I just mentioned, this is a setup you get to try for free for the first 3 months of A3 ownership, provided you avoid entry-level trim. Now, it underlines Audi's determination to create class-leading levels of media connectivity in this car, providing an LTE data transmission module that establishes high-speed 4G Internet 3 access and creates in your A3 a Wi-Fi hotspot. It also allows you to navigate with images from Google Earth, access the Google Points of Interest search function with voice control, and use a web radio setup with stations from all around the world. Through the Connect system, you can access special in-car versions of your Facebook and Twitter pages, and it's possible to read, write and send text messages and emails. The included online media streaming package gives you access to millions of music tracks, and there's also a clever Audi online traffic information system that uses live traffic information to reroute you around jams. Plus, the setup can deliver parking information, displaying details on parking lots and parking garages almost anywhere that you're likely to go. So, motoring in the 21st century? Yes. Now, if you really want to underline that fact, then if budget permits, you'll want to pay more for the Technology Pack Advanced package that we've been trying in our test car. Here, the existing Technology Pack elements I've just covered are built on by the addition of a further feature that's freshly added to this A3 Saloon model lineup, and it's one that we think you're really going to want, the virtual cockpit. Now, this is a 12.3-inch TFT colour display that completely replaces the instrument binnacle's conventional dials. It's totally configurable, very futuristic, and it probably represents this model's biggest showroom talking point. The virtual cockpit can also be ordered separately if you want to add it in more affordably. Now, another area of new optional cleverness with this car lies in what you can do with the headlamps. You can equip them with washers, upgrade them to full all-weather LED status, or add in a high beam assist system that'll auto-dip them at night. What's really different here this time around, though, is that Audi has now made available to A3 Saloon buyers the cutting-edge matrix LED headlamps that used to be the exclusive preserve of its boardroom-level luxury models. Now, these incorporate sensors and an inbuilt camera that detects other road users as well as ambient light in built-up areas. The matrix system then reacts by dipping individual LEDs to prevent dazzle while still fully illuminating the remainder of the road. Now, it can even draw from the vehicle's navigation data to anticipate corners and adjust LEDs as you negotiate the bend. Just brilliant. And other options. Well, let's start with the driving stuff. You can have the S-Line variant stiffer sport suspension. That's a setup lower by 15mm as an option on lesser sport variants. If you really like a firm ride, then S-Line variants can optionally come with an S-Line sport suspension package where the car is lowered by 25mm. A better solution, though, is the optional adaptive damping package known as Audi Magnetic Ride, and that works through the settings of the Drive Select driving mode system. Now, that feature only works if your car's been fitted with sport suspension, and it can't be ordered with the 1.6-litre TDI engine. We're less keen on the progressive steering option that varies the steering ratio based on your speed, supposedly making high-speed cornering more direct and parking easier. Talking of parking, there's plenty of optional help for that, whether you want rear parking sensors, a rear view camera, the Audi Parking System Plus setup that guides you with a visual display, or even the full Park Assist package that actively searches for spaces and then can automatically steer you into them. What else? Well, your journey is going to be a touch more pleasant if you've upgraded the audio setup, either to the 10-speaker 180-watt Audi sound system, or even better, to the 14-speaker 705-watt Bang & Olufsen setup we've been trying here, with its concert hall quality 3D surround sound. And that's a feature that can also be ordered as part of a comfort and sound pack, and that additionally gives you heated front seats and rear parking sensors. Other key options include an advanced keyless entry and start system, privacy glass, power folding mirrors, and an auto-dimming rear view mirror. The steering wheel can be heated, and buyers of sport variants might want to pay extra to have that in sporty, flat-bottomed form. Plus, you might want to look at upgrading the front seats with things like heating elements, electric adjustment, and four-way powered lumbar support. Choose an S3 or an S-Line variant, and you can even upgrade those front chairs to embossed sport or super sport status. Now, in terms of aesthetics for your A3 Saloon, well, if budget allows, you can really go to town. The seats can be trimmed in Milano leather, or in the case of the sports seats, with Napa hide or a leather and Alcantara combination. The cabin will also look much classier at night if you've got a car fitted with the LED interior lighting pack, and having that also enables you to order a panoramic glass sunroof that'll fill the car with light. Outside, there's a choice of alloy wheel designs with rims that vary in size from 16 to 19 inches. Perhaps practical touches are a greater priority for you. If so, then on a sports model, you'll probably want to pay extra for that storage pack, which gives you those extra interior stowage options I mentioned earlier. We would also want to protect the boot area with a reversible mat, which has a rubber underside you can flip over when you're transporting things like muddy boots. And we would want the flexibility of the split folding rear bench that can split 40-20-40, so long items can be poked through between the rear seat passengers. Another thing A3 Saloon models can now be ordered with is a folding tow bar that swivels out of the way when you don't need it. Plus, as you'd expect, there are optional roof rails onto which you can clip luggage boxes and carriers for things like skis, snowboards and bikes. On to safety. Now, there's nothing especially noteworthy about the standard kit tally in this respect, though a 5-star Euro NCAP showing is justified by the usual twin front, side and head airbags, plus a knee bag for the driver. Rear side bags are optional. You can also expect things like ISOFIX child seat fastenings, a tyre pressure warning light and an active bonnet designed to reduce pedestrian injuries. The usual electronic assistance for braking and stability control is included, as well as adaptive brake lights that flash during emergency stops to warn following motorists. There's also driver rest recommendation technology that assesses your driving style and shows a warning if it detects a decline in attentiveness and prompts you to stop for a restorative coffee. It does seem a bit mean, though, to make A3 buyers pay extra for the hill hold assist feature that stops you from drifting backwards on uphill junctions. It'd also be nice if the brand could include its clever Audi Presense Basic system. Now this tightens the seatbelts, closes the windows and activates the hazard warning lights if the electronics suggest that a crash impact is imminent. The really sophisticated electronic safety features are all on the options list, and here we would particularly want to look at 3 key elements. Now, the first is called Audi Side Assist, and that's a system that stops you from pulling out to overtake when there's a vehicle in your blind spot. And it also includes a feature called Cross Traffic Assist Rear that alerts you to oncoming traffic when you're reversing out of a parking space. Secondly, there's Adaptive Cruise Control. Now, this will automatically keep you a safe distance behind the car in front on the highway. And thirdly, there's a setup the brand calls Presense Front with Pedestrian Recognition that scans the road ahead for potential accident hazards. Now, if one's detected, you'll be warned. If you don't respond, or perhaps you aren't able to, then the system will automatically brake the car to decrease the severity of any resulting accident. Now, should such a crash still happen, then it's reassuring that the Presense Front package also includes a welcome multi-collision brake assist feature that'll brake the car after you've hit something to decrease the otherwise very likely possibility that you'll go on to hit something or someone else. Now, rather than ordering those Adaptive Cruise Control, Side Assist and Presense Front features separately, you might choose to get them all packaged up in one of the brand's optional driver assistance packs. Go for such a pack and you also get Active Lane Assist to help you stay in lane and a traffic sign recognition feature that'll work if your car's been fitted out with navigation. Plus, Audi will also throw in the Parking System Plus and High Beam Assist features I mentioned previously. On an S-tronic automatic A3, the driver assistance pack includes 2 further features. A clever traffic jam assist feature that'll allow the car to effectively drive itself in heavy traffic at speeds of up to 37 miles an hour. And an emergency assist setup that works when the Active Lane Assist and Adaptive Cruise Control systems are active, monitoring your reactions. Now, if the electronics sense no driver activity, let's say you were suddenly taken ill, for example, then if the warnings aren't responded to, the car will be held in lane and gradually, automatically, completely brought to a standstill. It's all very reassuring. Lightweight has all kinds of automotive advantages, and with careful engineering that sees aluminium used in the front wings and the bonnet, this improved A3 Saloon is impressive in its lack of bulk. One of these is significantly lighter than a directly comparable rival Ford or Mercedes CLA Coupe. With petrol variants, the Audi's advantage is around 160 kilos, but if you're comparing diesels, well, you'll find this A3 to be up to 215 kilos lighter. That's equivalent to the weight of 3 adult passengers. So this A3 Saloon starts off with a useful head start when it comes to running cost returns, and that's an advantage which can be added into the existing efficiency initiatives that you now expect from a car of this kind. These include a stop-start system that cuts the engine when you don't need it, when you're stuck in traffic or waiting at the lights, and a host of other little detailed touches like brake energy recuperation, which recycles energy that would otherwise be lost when you're braking or cruising. Then there's a climate control system that can be used in highly economic eco mode. The efficiency setting you can choose on the Drive Select vehicle dynamic system, an efficiency program that you'll find on the onboard computer that gives you fuel saving tips. There's also a gear shift indicator and even small spoilers in front of the wheels that'll help better guide the airflow. The CO2 saving achieved as a result of all this will, Audi reckons, reduce the typical A3's greenhouse gas emissions by about 2 metric tonnes over its lifetime. It's also worth pointing out that at the end of its life, over 95% of this car can be recycled. But let's get to the figures. Now, an A3 Saloon is fractionally heavier than the 5-door A3 Sportback hatchback body style, but its running costs are actually fractionally better if you compare like for like. As for the exact returns you can expect, well, we'll start with the engine that most will probably choose, the 2-litre TDI diesel unit we're trying here. In 150 PS, guys, using standard 17-inch wheels, this power plant manages up to 67.3 mpg on the combined cycle and up to 107 grams per kilometre of CO2, or up to 58.9 mpg and 125 grams per kilometre if you opt for the Quattro four-wheel drive version. If you want the kind of combination we're trying here, a front-driven 2-litre TDI 150 PS model with an S-tronic auto gearbox, then you'll be hampered by the fact that the A3's 2-litre TDI engine still has to be mated with the old-tech 6-speed version of this auto transmission rather than the more efficient 7-speed unit that's used with the other engines. As a result, with S-tronic fitted to a 2-litre TDI 150 PS derivative, your fuel and CO2 figures will be hit by around 10%. As I mentioned earlier in the film, the top 2-litre TDI diesel can also be ordered in uprated 184 PS form, in which, guys, you have to have Quattro four-wheel drive and 6-speed DSG auto transmission. With this pokier variant, the riggers on 17-inch rims are up to 58.9 mpg on the combined cycle and up to 127 grams per kilometre of CO2. The most frugal A3 Saloon derivative, predictably, is the 110 PS 1.6 TDI diesel, which on standard 17-inch wheels manages up to 72.4 mpg on the combined cycle and up to 106 grams per kilometre of CO2. Returns that are slightly improved, actually, if you opt for the S-tronic auto gearbox. If you cover a relatively low annual mileage and the 1.6 TDI is the version you have in mind, well, we'd suggest that you don't automatically sign on the dotted line before first checking out the comparably priced and very clever green pump fueled option. We're referring to the 150 PS 1.4 litre TFSI COD petrol model. Here, high-tech cylinder-on-demand technology sees this 4-cylinder engine running on only 2 of its cylinders at low to mid-throttle speeds. Thanks to that, on 17-inch wheels, this variant manages a combined cycle figure of up to 60.1 mpg and 109 grams per kilometre, readings that are only fractionally affected if you fit the S-tronic auto gearbox. In comparison, a rival Mercedes CLA 180 is way behind, managing 51.4 mpg and 128 grams per kilometre. What it all boils down to is that this clever petrol-powered A3 can give you returns that aren't far off diesel levels, at the same time as running more quietly on cheaper green pump fuel. If efficient high performance is your priority, then it's worth shifting your attention towards the top of the A3 Saloon petrol range, where a freshly developed 190 PS 2-litre TFSI engine replaces the previous 1.8-litre TFSI unit, and it promises impressive speed with eminent sensibility. It makes this particular A3 significantly more frugal than other comparably powerful contenders in the segment, using clever combustion technology to achieve up to 50.4 mpg and 128 grams per kilometre of CO2 if you're using standard 17-inch wheels. Now, that really isn't bad for a 150 miles an hour fast hatch able to sprint to 62 miles an hour in under 7 seconds. The same engine, uprated to 310 PS and mated to Quattro four-wheel drive, can deliver up to 43.5 mpg and 151 grams per kilometre in the S3 Sports Saloon variant. That's provided you specify it with efficient S-tronic auto transmission. As for depreciation, well, Audi maintains a small advantage over its premium German rivals here. Depending on the variant you choose, your A3 Saloon will typically be worth between 44 and 46%, according to independent specialist Cat Monitor. The top figure applies to a 2-litre TFSI 190 PS S-tronic model, and to put that into perspective, the top figure applies to a 2-litre TFSI 190 PS S-tronic model, and to put that into perspective, a directly comparable Mercedes Mercedes CLA 250 4MATIC AMG Coupe Auto would only be worth 37% at the end of the same period. That's quite a difference, and one that would certainly add up over time. In other words, it's a case of considering the bigger picture, and once you do, you begin to understand just why so many people pay a little extra to own a car like this A3 Saloon, rather than a similarly sized, well-equipped compact four-door like, say, a Volvo S60 or a Volkswagen Jetta. More mainstream models like those have improved substantially in recent years, but the market still values a smarter badge on the bonnet, and that means that as long as you can afford the initial outlay and you don't go too mad on the options list, a premium branded model like this Audi is always going to work out cheaper to own. Further assistance in this regard is provided by a fixed price servicing plan that can cover you for between 3 and 5 years. In fact, this car can even book its own service appointments via an Audi Connect safety and service system. As well as providing emergency calling and online roadside assistance, this feature can, at the appropriate time, send a service request direct to your local dealer. Now, onto the warranty. All cars in this class get 3 years of cover, but whereas BMW and Mercedes don't limit your mileage in this period, Audi rather meanly restricts you to 60,000 miles. Optional extra cost warranty packages can extend that cover to either 4 years and 75,000 miles or 5 years and 90,000 miles. So let's finish by running through what is a pretty competitive set of insurance groupings. These see the 1.4 and 2 litre TFSI 190 PS variants rated at Group 21E and the S3 Sport Saloon rated at Group 36E. In the diesel range, the 1.6 TDI is rated at Group 17E, the 2 litre TDI 150 PS variant is rated at Group 23E, and the 2 litre TDI 184 PS model is rated at Group 28E. So, how to sum up? Well, this improved A3 Saloon might look little different at first glance, but it'll certainly feel different if you specify the clever virtual cockpit technology and get to grips with the enhanced media connectivity. We also think the introduction of the 2 litre TFSI power plant for pokier petrol models is very significant. Such are its efficiency improvements that if your annual mileage is low, you may even be able to get away with running this desirable engine without too much of a total penalty over more conventional diesel motoring. So don't automatically tick the box for a 2 litre TDI without considering it. Otherwise, though, the recipe is much as it was before, and that'll see many continuing to like the statement this A3 Saloon makes on their behalf. It's smart and elegant without being showy, nor does it unduly advertise its status as the smallest saloon Audi makes. Most who see you at the wheel will simply think you bought an A4, and those who do spy the different boot badge will probably think you've chosen wisely. So there's very little not to like. Unless you were looking to make some sort of style statement. I mean, this car won't turn the heads of passers-by like a rival Mercedes CLA, but then that very discretion is a fundamental part of its appeal. As with any other A3, it's as at home in Belgravia as it is in Brixton, offering a democratisation of automotive luxury without a dilution of desirability. If you doubt that, then you've only got to get behind the wheel, because the interior is where this design really strides apart. You could be in a luxury car, and of course in many ways you are, just one that perhaps better reflects the times we live in.